wants to run. Oh, shoot. How's it going? So we're back at it on the 1973 911T. Once again, we got some parts. Got the oil filter. I stopped by Stoddard and was able to snag one last second because I wasn't able to get one from my other source. They were slacking, but it's all good. So I got the oil filter. I got the new points. Got those bad boys, so that should be a pretty simple install. So I actually got the gap pretty much on the money. Last time I used a 12 thousandths feeler gauge. It's supposed to be 12 thousandths, 14 thousandths. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it to probably 14 thousandths this time with this new one. And I got some oil. So I got that 20 W50. People recommend this one. It's conventional. I'm gonna go ahead and just fill it up with this. I got 8 quarts total. They recommend having 8 quarts and then filling as needed. So I think once I put about 7, I'm gonna check it and try to fire it up and hopefully it'll run. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the fuel filter. I know the one that I need is kind of a discontinued 1973.5 fuel filter. It's kind of goofy that they don't make it anymore. It seems pretty simple, but I found one on eBay for like 40 bucks. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and order that and wait till it comes in because I wanna make sure no particulates or garbage is getting into our motor through the fuel system. And I also received another part. It is the door striker mechanism for the driver's side. The one that came in the car was kind of broken internally, so I went ahead and found one of these on eBay. Comes with some new bolts as well, so that's sweet. So that's an easy install. 2 bolts, comes out, put on the new one, call it a day. That door will be able to stay latched. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the oil change and yeah, go from there. First bolt is right there. It's gonna be a 19 millimeter for the sump. And then the one under here is going to be a hex head. So gotta get that hex off, that 19 millimeter off, drain it up in this bucket. Yay! Oh, looking extra black. Let's see how much comes out. There's the plug right there. Nothing at the end that looks too bad. It's just some sludge. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. So I'm gonna let that keep dripping, and then I'm gonna move the bucket underneath the engine and then get that bolt out. You should see my setup. I'm using this jack stand as a kind of a mount to kind of get an angle for the camera. So pretty tight down here for space. That should fit with no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and break that loose. Oop, 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 oop. There she goes. So that oil's pretty dark. It looks pretty nasty. While this drains and while this other one drains, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum the engine bay compartment since I have some room to pull the vacuum over here finally and yeah, clean it up a little bit so I'm not working around dust and crust. So both of the drain plugs are looking clean again. There was a little bit of sludge buildup in both of them, but I didn't see any pieces, any metal scariness. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean the engine bay. So after a quick vacuum, it looks a little bit better, not much, but so I want to make sure that there's not a rat's nest underneath this fan shroud. So I kind of got 3 of these bolts off to pull this plate off. I'm hoping you guys will see something, as in something in there, not a rat's nest. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Honestly, that looks pretty prime, so I definitely need to invest in one of those microscopic cameras. Got that little piece back on. I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to remove the oil filter. I hope it's not gonna be terrible. There's another channel called Built Official. He had trouble with his oil filter on a Project 911 he found. It looked like the Hulk put it on, so I hope that mine's gonna come off a little bit easier than his. But I got the tool that got his off somewhere over there, so I think I'm in luck. So I'm gonna pretend like I'm strong and try to loosen it by hand first. Oh, no, it's not looking good. Oh, let's go. Oh, let's go. Definitely a lot easier than my buddy at Built Official. So, probably should have put a rag down. This is probably the color of the car right here. Look at that paint match. You see that in that? I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the drain bolts, put a little bit of oil in the new filter, and throw the new filter on. Clean this up a little bit. Man, it's nasty. It's pretty hairy under here. It looks like a cat was like living under here or something. I have my fingers. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and snug those bolt down. That's some pretty nasty oil up in there. So here's the new filter, Puro Liter Porsche. So I'm gonna fill this up with a little bit of oil, screw that bad boy on. That's basically as tight as I can go with my hand. Filter's on. I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up with some oil. This way. Sweet nectar of life. I feel like I'm just like
pouring a new heart into this car.
All of it. So I transferred the whole bucket of oil into the 8 quarts. It was a little bit more, so I'm assuming about 8.5 quarts came out. So we're good with 8. I'm gonna go ahead and change the new points and set the gap to about 14 thousandths. And then yeah, catch you guys in a little bit. So first things first, take out these little clamps on the side. That's gonna reveal the inside of the distributor. Pull off the rotor, place it somewhere safe. It's gonna be hard to get a close up, but I'll get you guys in here a little closer. So as you can see, this is the points right here, this whole mechanism right there. So I need to disconnect that clip, undo that flathead, and it's gonna pop right out. There's the gap you have to set down there. We'll do a little bit looking later, but this is the whole thing that kind of makes your car fire. And it's kind of a mechanism that I can't really explain, but it makes a little bit more sense to me now. It's a really good idea too to use a magnetic screwdriver, so you don't lose that little bolt. So there's that, there's the old ones. There's that gap that occurs. It goes very small gap. But yeah, I cleaned this one. It might be fine, but I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it just because you never know. So here goes the new part number and points right here. Comes with a little bit of grease. So I got it greased up. I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall. It's just gonna be that one flathead there and plug that clip in and snug it down. And then I'm gonna come back and do the gap. Here's this 14 thousandths feeler gauge. So that's about the resistance that you want on the feeler gauge. Once it's in there, you're gonna go ahead and tighten down that flathead, and that's gonna be your gap at the highest point that we set right there. And then we're gonna reassemble. So I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to fire it. I got the battery on it. Let's hope for the best. Eek. This is not a good thing to be happening if this box is trying to blow off. So I've done some reading up on these boxes, and they just have issues with them trying to pop off, and there's that pop-off valve underneath. So I went ahead and removed the top of the air cleaner box. These are just known to give people issues. So there's that pop-off valve. Oh wow, smoky dokey in there. So I'm gonna try to fire it up once again. Wish me luck. Sheesh. It wants to run. Oh, shoot. That is not what we want to happen right now. So I'm not going to try that again because I don't want my intake box to blow up. So I need to work on either the timing or something so I do not blow up that intake box. So just like Built Official, he pulled the motor to change that box. I do not want to do that. It's expensive. Sheesh. What's the fix to not pop that? I'm going to stop for tonight, do some research. In the meantime, I might vacuum the inside of the car and the frunk just to clean it up a little bit more. Let's keep it moving. Woo! Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm done. That's gonna be it for tonight. It's sketchy, it runs. The intake box is still fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some research. Built Official, if you're watching this, help your brother out. I'm gonna go ahead and look into timing, setting the valve clearances, ignition wires maybe, and this whole fuel system, which is old and rusty crusty. So that kind of sucks. Fun stuff. So it's the next day, back in the garage. I'm gonna go ahead and check the ignition timing. I wanna make sure that the crank is at top dead center and that cylinder number 1 is on its compression stroke. That way I can make sure that the distributor rotor is pointing at the right one and we're not 100 degrees off. So it's the next day, we're back in the garage. It's freezing today. I'm gonna go ahead and check the ignition timing, make sure that we're at top dead center, cylinder 1 compression stroke, that the rotor is pointing at the correct location. I'm gonna make sure we're not 180 degrees off and that our ignition wires are actually in the correct orientation, and go through a couple of checks to make sure that the timing is somewhat correct. This seems to be the common issue with this backfiring. Hopefully it's a simple fix. If not, I might have to dive into timing all of the valves or adjusting all the valves. So let's go ahead and just get right to it. So the best way to check this is to take off the distributor cap. There's a notch in the distributor cap, or the distributor housing is going to be top dead center, cylinder 1. I believe it's right there. You know where you are in your firing order. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the motor. Right around here is when I should be feeling the compression and kind of release stroke on cylinder number 1. That was my knee. So there's a notch. Yep, you can see. I'm gonna do a little bit off camera because it's hard to function with me trying to use this broken tripod, the light's in the way, this little holder, tight spaces. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of finagle some stuff off camera and check back. So we are top dead center for cylinder 1. There goes where our rotor is pointing. So it's supposed to be pointing at the fan shroud, so that's good. But I mean, like, if you see that mark on top, it's a little bit off. I don't know if that's still fine, but it's not exactly in line with this. So that might be enough to throw it off. I'm gonna say it's okay for now. I just want to trace back these wires to each of the cylinders, make sure those match up. So it's the next day. I'm gonna go ahead and take the valve covers off. I might just take this top one off for now and check the intake stroke for top dead cylinder number 1, top dead center cylinder number 1. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, troubleshoot a little bit more. I'm thinking that the distributor might be a tooth off or so, but it's anyone's guess. I went ahead and zoom, got all those out. I'm gonna go ahead and lightly pry it, probably with either a piece of plastic or something. The bolts are the easy part. This thing hasn't probably been on in so long. So the way I kind of got it off, had this piece of wood. I kind of like took the piece of wood and a hammer and kind of hit it around the edges, kind of vibrate a little bit. Hit on this edge a few times, kind of forcing it that way. And then I was able to take this broken piece of wood, shoving it here, and then prying it up like that. That gave me the first lift. After the first lift, I used one of these Bondo applier thingies, a new one. It looks old now, but kind of gave me enough wiggle room. And this is live. So yeah, I mean, the gasket did its job. You see some junk here, so that indicates something that a professional would know. I'm gonna put this to the side and get that little gasket material off, and yeah, maybe clean up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it to top dead center, take off the distributor cap, see where it's pointing at the notch, and yeah, wiggle this a little bit. Rotor pointed at the fan housing. There's that notch right there. It's almost in line with it. So that's how much play I got. I mean, it's moving barely, I'd say. Probably like down here. It's moving like a hair. Do you see anything down there, mate? That might be the top of a crusty piston, huh? That's dead nuts with the laundry distributor, what I thought was 30 degrees advanced. This is what should be Z1. This should be Z1. This is just keep going. That's the right there line, straight up line. Cleaned up some more stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to fire it over. I expect that something with the fuel distributor, air box, the whole fuel system is where we are having issues. I'm gonna try to fire it with no throttles right now. So that wasn't terrible. I'm gonna give it a hair of fuel right there. More fuel. So it's running pretty consistently, but I'm not in love with it. Dang, the lift, that was so loud. Oh, that was so loud. So that was freaking crazy loud. I'm gonna stop for now. See? Don't be scared at the top. I think me opening this garage just introduced a lot of cold air, and that's not going to be too great. Sounds pretty good, actually. So it was running better when the garage wasn't open. It's definitely fuel related, just like the mixture of the fuel, cold air coming through. It idled a lot better though. So this is the throttle opening quite a bit. And then I pull the throttle back. Pretty nice idle. Then it dies down again. Throttle. after a few seconds it kind of, maybe I should back out those idle screws a little bit. So that's gonna be a wrap for this video. As you saw, we got the oil changed, got the new points on the car, and did some cleanup work as well. The car definitely runs a lot better than it did, but not completely how it should. There's a lot more that we need to do to this car. The fuel system needs gone through, ignition needs to get checked through as well to make sure that it's gonna be running in tip-top shape. It's gonna take a lot more dissecting and troubleshooting to get to run prime. I know that the fuel distributor needs gone through, the whole CIS system, and the car just needs a whole revamping. It's been sitting for so long, these cars just can't sit for that long and expect to run perfect. I basically have the goal in mind to make it run, and I completed that goal. There's a few interested parties in this car as well, so we'll see. A deal might be striked soon. So I think the next person that gets this car is gonna have a fun time troubleshooting and making it run a lot better, but we'll see. I got other things in the works, so be sure to stay tuned. Drop a comment what you might think it might be. Drop a like, subscribe if you want to see the progress with this car and other cars. And I appreciate the love, guys. As always, we've been definitely coming a long way. It's a great adventure always picking up these air-cooleds, learning about these air-cooleds, and the community around it is just something that I find amazing. Shout out to Caleb at Built Official once again. He was able to give me some tips and some tricks at what this issue might be. It was actually idling a lot better and longer on its own when we had warmer temperatures here in Cleveland, Ohio. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll catch you guys next time. As always, be blessed and be superish. So that's gonna be a wrap for this video. As you saw, we did an oil change, got the new plugs back on. So that's gonna be a wrap for this video. As you saw, we got the oil change, put the new plugs. What plugs are you talking about? It definitely doesn't help it. So that definitely has something to do. Why am I saying definitely so many times? Definitely.